Welcome to the Wellness Protocol, your source for guidance on metabolic health, hormones, and longevity. I'm Dr. Alessia Ronell, double board certified endocrinologist, and on each episode, I'll share simple tools rooted in science and experience to help you feel better, live longer, and take control of your health. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wellness Protocol. If you have ever looked in the mirror and thought, I'm doing everything right, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, why won't the scale budge? Or why is it even going up? Today's episode will be for you. Because here's the truth. Weight isn't just about calories. It's also about hormones. Now, before we dive in, let me say this. Calories do matter. You can't completely escape the laws of physics. But hormones really help decide how those calories are being used, whether your body is going to store them, whether your body's going to burn those calories, or whether it's just going to send you hunting for a snack 2 hours later. So today, we're going to break down the hormone-weight connection in real terms. No jargon and no guilt. We're going to cover insulin, cortisol, thyroid hormones, estrogen, muscle, sleep, even some of the new medical tools that can help. So let's get started. If I had to pick one hormone that is most commonly associated with stalling weight loss, it would be insulin. Insulin's job is actually pretty simple. It moves glucose or sugar from your bloodstream into your cells to use as energy. Every time you eat, insulin rises. That's normal. But when it's constantly elevated or spiking really high, either from frequent snacking or eating refined carbohydrates, sometimes stress, or even genetics, the body can get stuck in storage mode instead of burning calorie mode. I tell my patients, think of insulin as a traffic light. When insulin is low, the light is green. Your body burns fat for energy, and you will be able to lose weight when you do all those other things, when you're eating healthy, when you're exercising. But when insulin is high, that light turns red and your body stops burning fat. Now, if you're constantly grazing, that light literally never turns green. So you might technically be in a calorie deficit, but your body isn't accessing those stored fat areas. It's busy managing insulin spikes all day long. And that's why insulin resistance, when cells stop responding efficiently, becomes the hidden driver of this stubborn weight gain and sometimes can control cravings, fatigue. It's not willpower, it's biochemistry. So how can we fix it? Number one, you have to balance meals. Every plate should have a good amount of protein, fiber, and healthy fat. These things will help slow glucose absorption, which means they're going to reduce blood sugar spikes and insulin spikes so that insulin stays steady. Second, you want to shorten the eating window. I mean, you don't need to do extreme fasting for this to occur. I mean, some people go through these multiple day fasts. You don't need to do that in order to start this process. But giving your body at least a few hours in between meals, and ideally about 12 hours overnight, lets that insulin level reset and lets your body start breaking down fat stores. The third important part is moving after eating. A 10-minute walk after dinner can lower your post-meal glucose by up to 30%. 30%, and that's from multiple clinical trials. And finally, sleep. Even one night of sleep deprivation increases insulin resistance by 20 to 30%. It's those small, constant habit changes. It's not perfection that change insulin sensitivity over time. So when your insulin levels calm down, your metabolism wakes up. Now let's talk about another hormone that gets a lot of press, and that is cortisol. So cortisol is the hormone that is actually supposed to protect you, but in some cases can certainly work against you. Cortisol is a hormone made by your adrenal glands, and it gets released at certain times of the day or when your body is under stress. That can mean stress from a recent illness, but that can also mean psychological stress, like a deadline or an argument, or maybe a really intense exercise class. Certainly, too little sleep can stimulate it. So it basically is this hormone that is telling your body, we need energy right now because there is something critical going on right now that we need to get through. And while that hormone is telling your body that you might need energy, what's going to happen is that your body is going to start holding on to fuel rather than burning it. So chronic stress is going to mean chronically high cortisol. And what will that do for you? So it could raise your blood sugar. It could trigger insulin spikes. It can actually cause muscle breakdown and even redistribute some fat towards the abdomen. So if you feel like you're only gaining weight in the belly, you don't gain it anywhere else, that can be due to chronic cortisol secretion. And this is why you can see two women eating exactly the same diet and exercising exactly in the same way, and one might lose weight and the other literally gains it in their midsection. Because the difference isn't all diet. It might also be cortisol. Now, here's where it gets kind of tricky because many of my patients are doing the right things, but maybe doing them under stress. So they're over-exercising or they're under-eating. They're sleeping 5 hours a night to try to get through everything they need to get through that day. And then they kind of wonder like why nothing is changing. And that's because their cortisol is pretty dysregulated. And your body does not know the difference between stress from being chased by a tiger or stress from running late to the carpool. Your body sees both of those as just stress. So what can we do about it? Well, first thing is check your pace. So if you're constantly doing high intensity workouts every single day, that might actually be keeping your cortisol a bit elevated. So you might want to mix in some slower movement like walking or Pilates or yoga. Even some gentle strength sessions can be very helpful. And second, you want to support the circadian rhythm. That means that morning light with 30 minutes of walking can actually really help regulate cortisol's natural rise and fall pattern. And then third, eat enough. If you're under eating, that actually is a stress for your body. So your body's not going to burn fat when it thinks that food is scarce and it is in this starvation mode. It's actually going to hold on to those calories, not let you burn them. And lastly, think about addressing the emotional load. I know that sounds kind of fluffy, but it really is science because chronic psychological stress will keep your HPA axis, which is basically your brain's stress circuit, in overdrive. So think about it. Are you doing all the healthy things but feel burnt out? Or maybe you feel wired all the time or you're just stuck? That might be a cue that your cortisol is kind of running the show. And sometimes the most effective fat-burning move isn't another workout, it's enough rest. So we've already hit two major players here, which are insulin and cortisol. And you can see how they intertwine. Because high cortisol will raise glucose. High glucose will raise insulin. High insulin is going to block your fat-burning potential. And that's why so many people will hit this wall when they diet harder or train more. They're unknowingly fueling the same hormone that they're trying to tame. So think about it like this. Your metabolism isn't broken. It's actually protecting you. This is what your body has been developed to do. This is actually a normal response. It's responding to these signals that you might not even realize you're sending, like stress or poor sleep or poor environment. And when you understand these signals, you can change them. So let's take a breath, literally. If you're listening to this while you're multitasking, just stop for a second. Roll your shoulders back and take a deep breath in and out. That single breath just lowered your cortisol, even just a little bit. All right, so now that we calmed our nervous systems, in the second half of this episode, we are going to dive into thyroid, estrogen, muscle, and sleep, and how all of these layers connect in real-world weight management. So let's move on to another big piece of the puzzle, which is thyroid hormone. If you think of insulin as the storage switch and cortisol as a stress signal, think about thyroid hormones as your metabolic thermostat. When your thyroid slows down, almost every system in your body follows. Your heart rate, your digestion, your temperature regulation. That's why some people with an underactive thyroid feel cold all the time. And your calorie burn. Even mild hypothyroidism can drop your resting metabolic rate by 5 to 10%. That's hundreds of calories a day without changing a single thing in your routine. So when a patient says, I swear I'm eating the exact same thing, but I'm gaining weight, I always listen for other clues. Are they fatigued? Are they having constipation? Do they have drier skin than usual? Are they having any hair changes? Maybe they are saying they feel cold all the time. Because these symptoms can signal that there might be low thyroid function. And here's the kicker. Stress and dieting can both suppress thyroid output. Meaning if your body is chronically stressed, your production of thyroid hormone might decrease. And when you cut calories too aggressively or you push these really hard workouts every single day, your cortisol rises, and a high cortisol level reduces the conversion of T4 into T3. So again, your body thinks it's doing something good for you, protecting you from this famine that you must be in. But really, you're just giving it the wrong signals. That's why in my practice, I'm never just trying to normalize thyroid labs. I'm really trying to optimize thyroid function, especially for the individual. If you're on the younger side, you should have a more optimal thyroid function versus if you are, for instance, over the age of 65, your body naturally does not need as much thyroid hormone as a younger person might need. And lifestyle-wise, you can support your thyroid by doing a few things. Number one, getting adequate protein. So amino acids are the building blocks for thyroid hormone synthesis. If you're not getting enough good quality protein in your diet, you might not be able to make good quality thyroid hormone. Also avoiding chronic caloric restriction, because again, that can signal some type of energy storage and certain hormone production can actually be suppressed. And ensuring sufficient but not excess iodine intake is actually really important. So iodine is used to make thyroid hormone in your body, and there's a certain amount that you need every day. Typically, the average adult needs about 150 micrograms per day. If you're pregnant, you need up to 300 micrograms per day. And iodine is naturally found in things like seafood, and much of our salt nowadays contains iodine. However, again, your body is smart. And if it sees too much iodine intake, it knows something is wrong, something is off, and it actually shuts down thyroid production. So a normal amount of iodine intake is good, but excessive iodine intake can actually cause thyroid problems. And sometimes for some patients, medical therapy is needed, whether it's levothyroxine or Synthroid or combination therapy. It might be appropriate. The key here is personalization. It really is not one size fits all when it comes to thyroid conditions. And now let's move into estrogen, progesterone, and that midlife shift, because hormones really start to change a lot in perimenopause and menopause, and that will absolutely affect metabolism. A lot of my female patients describe this to me as their body just stopped listening. Things just stopped working and it didn't make any sense. They didn't change their diet, they didn't change their exercise regimen, but all of a sudden they're gaining weight around their belly. Their sleep worsens significantly. Their cravings intensify. So what's happening? Well, estrogen levels are fluctuating. Sometimes they're high, but a lot of times they're too low. And progesterone also begins to decline. Estrogen is actually a metabolic protector. So it helps maintain insulin sensitivity. It helps maintain muscle mass. It helps maintain a healthy distribution of fat around the hips and the thighs. But when estrogen levels fall, the fat redistributes around the abdomen. So a lot of my postmenopausal patients who are not on estrogen therapy will notice that they stop gaining weight in their hips and in their thighs, and they really start gaining weight around the belly. And that shift, unfortunately, increases the risk for insulin resistance, for fatty liver disease, and for cardiovascular disease. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, lower progesterone levels are contributing to really poor sleep and even higher perceived stress. And remember, what happens when your body thinks it's stressed? Cortisol levels go up. So if you've been eating the same way and doing things the same way in your 30s, and all of a sudden you're in your 40s and things are not working as well, you're not imagining it. The hormonal landscape has changed. So how do we fix it? Well, we have to approach it differently. And here's what we can focus on. Number 1, protein intake and resistance training to preserve lean mass. This is a time period of life where you lose the most muscle mass. So proactively trying to build up that muscle is incredibly important for your metabolism. You want to kind of prioritize strength training over cardio at this point. Because again, muscle is that metabolic currency. The more muscle, the faster your metabolism will go. You want to also take into account the importance of evening routines and good sleep hygiene to try to improve sleep quality and lower cortisol levels. So doing all the things like unplugging from your blue light devices for a good hour before you go to bed, making sure you're not eating too close to when you go to bed so that your body is starting to get into that sleep state and not having to work to break down food and break down meals. Consider things like meditating before you go to bed, making sure to keep a really consistent routine of what time you go to bed and what time you wake up in the mornings, even on weekends. And in some cases, what can really help sleep is hormone replacement therapy when it's appropriate and individualized. Hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, it's not about vanity. It's really about physiology. For many women, it can help restore quality of life. It can help restore metabolic stability. It can help reduce that redistribution of fat from the thighs to the belly. And sometimes it can even improve insulin sensitivity. A lot of studies nowadays are showing that hormone replacement therapy can really improve health span, which is basically a good quality of life as you age. Now, of course, this requires really careful screening and decision making with your provider. So make sure that if you are starting hormone replacement therapy, you have a good provider that you feel comfortable with, that knows what they're doing, and that can really help tweak your regimen depending on your symptoms. So the takeaways here are that this midlife metabolism crisis, it's different than anything else you'll experience, but once you understand what's shifting, you can adapt and you can thrive through this. Now let's pivot to one of the most underappreciated hormones in weight management. Although technically it's not a hormone, but it might as well be, and that is muscle. Yeah, muscle. It is the organ of longevity. So skeletal muscle acts like a metabolic sponge. It absorbs glucose or sugar. It improves insulin sensitivity, so it fights diabetes and prediabetes. It drives resting energy expenditure, meaning the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. If you lose muscle, you lose that metabolic buffer. And after age 30, we lose about 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. And it goes even faster around the time of menopause. So that's the one reason why women often see their metabolism slow despite eating the same, because they're losing that lean muscle mass. So if you are trying to lose weight through endless cardio exercise or extreme dieting, you might be burning the very tissue that keeps your metabolism high. So what's the fix? It's lifting weights, it's eating protein, and it's sleeping well. Resistance training doesn't just sculpt your body, it recalibrates your hormones. It can lower cortisol levels, it can increase growth hormone and testosterone, and it improves insulin sensitivity for up to 48 hours after a session. And sleep just really seals the deal, because deep sleep is when growth hormone peaks and muscle can repair. If you miss out on sleep, your appetite hormones, they're called ghrelin and leptin, they just go haywire. So you start craving carbs, your hunger cues are amplified. One study showed that 5 nights of restricted sleep can increase caloric intake by 300 calories a day. So if you're doing everything else right, but you still can't lose weight, check your sleep and check your muscle, because they are the foundation that every hormone relies on. Now, I do want to talk honestly, because sometimes, despite doing everything right, the body needs a little extra nudge. And that's where medical therapy can actually be a very helpful tool in this whole process. It really needs to be thought of, though, very strategically, not just as a shortcut or a quick weight loss. So for some, that means just thyroid optimization. For others, it might mean hormone replacement therapy in menopause. And for a lot of people nowadays, it means the GLP-1 receptor agonists, like semaglutide, tirzepatide, Ozempic, Zepbound, those medications. Because these medications, they don't just suppress appetite. They actually improve insulin sensitivity. They lower your post-meal blood sugar, and they help the pancreas rest. I kind of like to think of it as a metabolic reset, not a magic fix, because they are tools to create space for all of those lifestyle changes that you're making. But really, the foundation still has to be good nutrition, good movement throughout the day, good sleep, and stress regulation. Because without that, not only will these medications not work as well, but you won't be able to sustain the results. So if you're thinking, maybe I need that extra support, I would recommend discussing it with a provider who does look at the full picture here, not just the scale. Because the best outcomes with these medications really happen when medicine and lifestyle strategies are used together. So let's bring everything home. You've heard how insulin, cortisol, thyroid, estrogen, progesterone, muscle, sleep, how they all interlock. And they form this metabolic orchestra. When one instrument plays out of tune, the whole system feels off. Inability to lose weight isn't about failure or lack of effort. It's actually a problem with your body's communication system. So if you can learn to listen to what your hormones are telling you, you can actually stop fighting your body and start working with it. So here's what I'd like you to take away. Number 1, eat balanced meals with protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Number 2, move daily. Move as much as you can. Short walks count. Standing squats, if you can't leave the office, those count. Any type of movement throughout the day is better than doing nothing. And it really gives a nice push for your glucose levels to come down, your insulin levels to come down, so that you can go into a state of promoting fat burn instead of fat storage. Also, strength training a few times a week can be incredibly helpful to preserving that lean muscle mass and building it up. And you need to prioritize sleep as if it's medicine. And at the end of the day, manage stress intentionally. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to factor in your stress levels when thinking about your overall health. And of course, don't fear medical support when it's appropriate, because again, your metabolism isn't broken. It's adaptable. It just needs the right input to respond. And if you've been feeling discouraged, I want you to know your effort isn't wasted. Your body remembers every good thing you do for it. Sometimes it just needs time and the right conditions to show the progress. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope this episode helped you see your metabolism in a new light, not as your enemy, but as your partner. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow and share it with someone who's been struggling with weight despite doing everything right. It may be exactly what they needed to hear. I'm Dr. Alessia Ronelt, and this has been The Wellness Protocol. Until next time, take care of your body, take care of your hormones, and they'll take care of you.